how much data can I store in Amazon S3? So how much do you think actually you can store? Just guess it. Don't read it, just guess it. Okay, let's go and see into it. The total volume of data and the number of objects you can store in Amazon 3 are unlimited. That means you can store to petabytes. That's what I think. Individual Amazon S3 objects can range in size from 0 bytes to a maximum of 5 TB. Okay, S3 can store a lot, but an object can store only up to 5 TB, which is a lot. uh, it could be like storing, I don't know, like when I was little, 1 TB hard drive was a huge thing. So storing a 1 TB was the hugest and humongous thing that I have faced. Okay, my English is so bad. uh, so yeah, so the largest object that can be uploaded in a single put is 5 GB. Okay, so with a largest object with a single put is 5 GB. For objects larger than 100 MB, customers should consider multi-part upload. Okay, cut the crap, because I don't understand. You can upload under 5 GB and then you come and see, hey, if you are putting more than 100 MB, you should use multi-part upload. What is the heck is this? Okay. Individual MS3 can range, objects can range in size. Okay, that's the object. Let's call it's a bucket, and bucket there's an object. So when you are uploading a 5 TB of worth of data, you can only at a time you can only pass 100 MB of data. If you have to pass more than that, you have to use multipart, which is basically you chop the data into multi-parts and send it parallelly. So that's basically what is how much data you can store. So I think you got an idea, right? So how much data? So you are using S3 and you come up with the question, how much can I actually use? And then for a bucket you can use only up to, sorry, not a bucket, for an object you can store only up to 5 TB. So I have this question, is bucket is different from object? Comment it below if you know the answer. So how much within a bucket, how much objects can be stored, or are these the same thing? Comment your answer below. Please ask ChatGPT. I'm not going to say you don't need to ask. Hey, why not we can ask for ourselves? No, we are not going to do that. What is an S3 general purpose bucket? So you come to the S3 and ask, what is the general purpose bucket? What's the general guy does? So generally, not the specific, generally, what do you do, man? That's the question that they are asking. A bucket is a container for objects. A bucket is a container for objects. So as I said earlier, so you now have the answer. Bucket is a container for the objects. So how many objects you can store, I still don't know. Store in Amazon 3, so you can store any number of objects in a bucket. So you can store any number. So that's why you can store any number of data in a bucket. So it's unlimited. So you can store. Oh, that means I can buy something and I store like forever, right? If it is so, in a bucket, if let's say I bought a bucket and objects are unlimited and I can upload up to 5 TB, just think of how much you can store in it, how much of a data. But I think they charge per TB, probably they charge per GB. After 5 GB, pay me $5. I don't know. I am not relatively new to AWS and I have no idea about cost. So where general purpose buckets are the original S3 bucket. Okay. So general guys, the common guys, the original. Superman's are a bluff. Okay. General purpose buckets are the original S3 bucket, and a single general purpose bucket can contain objects stored and a single general purpose bucket can contain objects stored across all storage classes except S3 Express 1 zone. Do you know why? Because it's express and it's like one-sided love. It's fast and it's one-sided. One side mean it's not worth it. It'll fall very drastically. Even you love a girl for 6 years one-sided, it means you are just delusional. And I stand by this. They are recommended for most use cases and access patterns. They are recommended for most use cases. So mostly any use case you can use S3 general purpose. If you are new to it, just choose the general purpose. Don't go for the express 1 zone which you don't know why they use it. So basically the use case you should know before you know the storage class, you should know what's the use case, what's the problem, right? So if you don't know the problem, just choose this general guy. So basically you choose their storage classes are based on these access patterns, which means how often you access, how often you read. Is it a payroll system? Is it a social media system? If it is a social media system, you are going to access it a lot of times, because that's what I doing when you're working most of the time. And your system is the one frequently not accessed. So most frequently accessed, you should choose probably this S3 Express one, which I don't know what it is. What is an S3 directory bucket? S3 directory bucket. So it's a folder. So bucket is a folder, kind of folder, and directory is folder in Linux. So basically S3 folder. Do you know what is folder? A bucket is a container which is a folder for objects stored in MSN S3, and you can store any number of objects in a bucket. Same thing repeated. Note this, same thing repeated. They just want to say that again. Like you ask a different question, like what is an S3 bucket? Yeah, and then they go like, hey, you know what? S3, S3, you can store any number of objects. I mean, this is the introduction they give. Like if you ask any questions like, is S3 safe to store my personal information, and they would just go like, a bucket is a container for objects stored in MSN S3, and you can store any number of objects, and then only they answer, then only they think of answer. First they give the the template introduction, just like a Tamil masala movie. They give the template introduction, hero introduction scene. They introduce it like this. S3 directory buckets only allow objects stored in the S3 Express. Okay, this guy is also coming in. Wait, S3 directory buckets only allow objects stored in S3 Express 1 storage class, which provides fast data processing within a single availability zone. So I thought this could be something different, but it just comes from the name, fast and 1 zone availability. It's only available in 1 zone. I don't really know what's the reason you have it in 1 zone. Just like, okay, you keep it in 1 zone and it's fast. If it is multiple zone, I'm telling you indirectly it's not going to be fast. So just, I think this, the whole purpose of this is like, the 1 zone is secondary backup, which might not be needed in the most case, but they just want to tell, hey, we have 1 zone which is faster, but if it is get messed up, you get messed up. But if you choose multi-zone, it's not going to be that faster like 1 zone. So 1 zone is basically there to sell the multi-zone, whatever the use case is, multi-zone use case, basically the availability use case. They recommend for low latency use cases. Yeah, you have 1 zone. If you have one girlfriend, you have low latency. If you have many, you have issue, maybe a parental issue. Am I going overboard? I think I do, but I don't care. Who gives a fuck? Each S3 directory bucket can support hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, independent of. Okay, I didn't get the earlier part also. S3 directory buckets only allow objects stored in S3 Express 1 storage. And why is that? You go and ask someone like, hey, what is this? And they say, hey, do you know? Do you really know? This guy doesn't allow this. Hey, who is this guy, man? You know, this guy doesn't allow this guy to do this thing. What a horrible way to answer a question like, hey, do you know about this guy? Hey, this guy doesn't talk with that guy. He guys only talk with this guy. Hey, I don't know who this guy is. Really good way to answer. Who answers these questions? I don't know. S3 directory bucket only allow objects stored in S3 Express 1 storage. Okay, maybe they wanted to say like, hey, S3 Express 1 storage, one zone storage uses directory buckets. That's what they wanted to say. So it's whatever the buckets in the S3 Express 1 storage is called the S3 directory bucket. They just give it a different name because directory means fast maybe. Each S3 directory bucket can support hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. So directory bucket means it's just fast. So directory means somehow it's related to fast. Maybe it's Linux, it's fast. Independent of the number of directories within the buckets. Okay. So directory buckets means you have directories within the bucket. But if it is a directory bucket, it's good at directory. That's what it's good at. You don't mess with directory buckets. You don't talk about directory to the directory bucket. You get it? That's it. I hope I can continue, but I'm going to stop here because my OBS somehow only lasts for 15 minutes. So I can do up to 15 minutes or else it's going to freeze. If somebody knows the answer how can I stop this freezing in my Mac 2020 Pro, it will be much helpful.